We need to be able to have conversations without feeling like we're going to say something that gets us thrown in jail because people happen to be offended. We need to be able to have conversations with.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Pangburn Royal Rumble. This week, I am your host. My name is John. I have done a hostile takeover on Don. And so that's exciting, but what's even more exciting is our lineup for you today. As always, we are covering the most interesting news of the week and whatever else we want to talk about. We are going to be starting with Jordan Peterson's Peterson Academy. Started up a while ago, but it's starting to get a little bit of traction now. We're going to talk about the government shutdown in America, or the lack thereof. We're going to talk about the recent GOP second debate, if you can even call it that. And finally, we are going to be discussing the continuing hot water that Trump finds himself in. And, maybe we'll do some unplanned stuff at the end. Who knows? It does get a little bit wild. I am joined by Tart, who is over there, Don, who I took over for today, and Thomas down there. Should be very exciting. But the first story is, in fact, Don's about Peterson Academy. He has many thoughts, I'm sure. I have not many thoughts.
Yes,
so.
I do have many thoughts. But a lot of these thoughts I cannot tell you today because there's some information that I got a hand of that is, a little bit, how could we say, breaking news. So I thought to myself, hey, I'm going to make a video about Jordan Peterson's Peterson Academy because, clearly it's kind of a grift. But aside from that, I managed to figure out who their speakers are going to be that they have not published yet whatsoever. I have over 15 names of people that they're going to have to speak for the lectures. The dates of when their courses are. I can't tell you how I did it. You're going to have to watch my video tomorrow.
Sounds illegal.
It doesn't, not illegal at all.
Was it illegal?
No, it was not illegal at all. You're going to have to watch my video about it, and then I'll have links to it. Because I haven't finalized everything complete. It's what I was working on today. But
awesome sauce.
It is pretty awesome sauce. But it really is like it's kind of, let's put it this way. What is Peterson Academy? Peterson Academy is like if PragerU and Masterclass had a baby, right? It's like an echo chamber of like dejected, rejected professors for profit. That's really what we're getting. People who Peterson likes and there's really not much more to it other than that grift. But what there is to it is that it kind of highlights, it kind of mirrors the same thing that Peterson consistently complains about, right? Like a university system that outs out voices they don't like, that's interested in profits, not interested in your education. It's like if you would take like a intro to psych textbook and under defense mechanism projection, like that, this situation would just fit the bill perfectly. But there are many other like these fake universities around there. Tart, do you know of any that you can think of in the past, or Thomas or John?
All I'm thinking is PragerU. That's the one that's come to mind. But I don't know the setup.
DeVry.
What?
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, is the setup? Is it paid, or is it more like I think you can find PragerU content like on
it's
YouTube.
Paid. They charge.
Like
they're going to charge you for that.
Oh no! Do they actually issue degrees?
What about fucking?
You'll have to watch the video. Watch the video.
Oh no!
Explain it all. Explain it all.
One more I gotta ask. What about ITT Tech?
I don't know what that is, so I'm not getting the joke.
Yeah,
those commercials for like DeVry and ITT Tech and all those. You've never seen those commercials?
Really?
Oh my god, dude.
Yeah, there's a lot of universities out there that are pretending, or they're charades. They're pretending to be universities. Yeah. But there's a reason we have our accreditation system, and it's so that we can keep track of actual universities where you actually get a degree. And that's how accreditation works. So, correct. Like if you don't have a degree from an accredited university,
unless the accreditation is really just a process by the leftist liberal elites on the coast and international globalists, who you have to be careful of because they have been corrupted by whatever it might be. So we have to battle the woke mob and make our own universities. and now you have entered griftdom. Welcome to it. Does this
No.
does this
You
does
made
this
like
take,
a quantum leap in logic there,
what
like in
quantum
that
leap did
last
I make?
sentence. Of like this, I know you think it's a stupid motive, but like ultimately altruistic motive to like diversify higher education in terms of ideological viewpoint, and then the next sentence is like,
I'm making
and therefore grift, and I'm like, well, you can make fun of the motive and you can call it a grift, but like you're missing a couple of steps there because you just outlined an
what
altruistic.
step have I missed? That
You
type
just
of
outlined.
narrative,
You just
that type of
outlined.
narrative is used to justify grifts all the time. It's been used to justify grifts from the beginning of homeopathy. Want an alternative, a diverse viewpoint to medicine? How about this alternative medicine? Right? It's the same type of narrative
Guess
played in a
what?
political and academic
Also,
way.
breaking news: Hitler had a dog.
What about
Crazy,
it?
right? Well, do you see, Don Don? You see, I also have a dog.
That has nothing to do
Therefore,
with it.
the reason
No,
is
it has
you're pointing out that they have similar levels of motive, and therefore they must have similar.
No, I'm not talking about their motive. I'm talking about the
You are if you're saying
justification and the
grifting.
argumentation and the narrative around their product.
No, you
Right?
said grift. Grift is a motive thing.
Yeah, yeah, a grift, selling someone something that is fake
A
and
snake oil
saying that it
salesman.
isn't. Yeah,
Well, is Peterson claiming that his university is accredited the same way like Harvard is?
you should watch the video. No, I mean not really. He originally said
assume
he
not.
originally said it was going to be accredited,
Yeah,
but
he was gonna
then
be-
after they couldn't get accreditation, he still went forward with it, saying that they're offering you a bachelor's degree for $4,000. You can't
said
say
he-
both these things simultaneously.
Did he say he's offering you a bachelor degree, or he's saying he's offering you a bachelor degree level education? Because they're different things. Because one of them's not true.
John, you know what you're doing right now. This is like called straight
Being
copium and like
it's called being
and
precise.
like big and like big braining the argument for someone else.
It's called
It's
being precise when you're
No, it's called
launching-
being
No,
pedantic
when
to
you're
the
launching
point of unbeing
accusations
able.
of being a grifter.
No,
I tend to take
it's
that like a kind of
can you
serious.
you take it seriously then because he says I'm going to provide you a bachelor's level like degree as when saying originally they were going to be accredited and talking about how they're going to replace Cornell and it's 95% the price of a tuition, like all of these things that he's talking about lead you down. This is like the most brinksmanship and the most sleazy of salesman tactics. And for you to hinge on the pedanticness of some sort of moral grace or saving throw, if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons on Peterson's character, just seems to show more that you're not willing to accept the fact that this is charlatan-like behavior.
Number 2 on the assumption of motive without sufficient evidence. Bravo. Let's see if we make it a hat
What do you
trick
mean?
conversation. You said like why you think I'm doing the things.
Yeah, this is why I think that you're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, in case you or the audience hasn't noticed, when people get accused of like malicious intent, I realize that there's a very high bar of evidence for that sort of thing, and I take it rather seriously, especially when it's out of character for. And like, I agree that I think it to be out of character for Peterson, but I'd have just as precise of a standard if you accused anybody else of a grifting intent when they've explicitly stated their motive to be otherwise, especially when their character is in line with that alternative motive. Like, do you really think that Peterson doesn't believe that like the school needs to be replaced and that
I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters because he's not offering an alternative and he's speaking as if he is.
Well, we got to look at the list, but I know a couple of the people he's announced were professors at Sirius.
You can Masterclass has professors on it.
Yeah.
Masterclass has lectures.
Cool.
Masterclass doesn't call themselves an alternative to Cornell, Stanford, and Harvard.
If Masterclass curated a suite that was made up of only college professors teaching in their teaching in their element, and they created a course made up purely of those lecturers, and they said this is similar to what you get in a bachelor's level education because they're actual educators with this experience, but we're going to charge you less for it. Would that be grossly immoral, Don?
Yes, if they represented it as an alternative to a university, because it's not an alternative to it.
It's immoral to prevent alternatives.
It's not an alternative. That's a lie.
Because
it's not an alternative to. It's
Why
not. Why it's not? It's not accredited.
Yeah. Right, but they're upfront about that part.
Not really. No. Not really. No. Not really. No.
Really? Because
100% really, because in his videos on Joe Rogan, he's saying how they're pursuing accreditation, and then they just kind of like dropped it away after they couldn't do it anymore. They talk about how they're going to replace. They're comparing it to actually getting a bachelor's degree.
You're blowing my mind right now. You're blowing my mind. You're telling me
Am I?
that months ago when he was pursuing accreditation, he talked about it, and now that he has not found accreditation, he's not talking about it, and at no point did he ever claim that it was actually accredited at any
No,
time.
no. Do you understand the difference between rhetoric, narrative,
I
and then being
know,
pedantic through law?
I understand rhetoric just fine.
Okay, so if you understand rhetoric just fine, why is it so out of the blue for you and so shocking that I'm making the analysis that his rhetoric doesn't match his content?
I'm saying that it does match his content just fine.
It does? His rhetoric matches his content just fine?
Yeah.
The way he's presenting it, the way he's selling it,
yes,
the way he's advertising for it as an alternative to a 4-year university and bachelor's degree.
He literally said nothing untrue.
I mean, like, but here's the thing: why do you go to school?
Pathetic,
you go to school so you can get a job, right?
Ooh,
like I
coming out tonight.
Let's let Tart get in, guys. Come on,
yeah,
let's let Tart get in.
Why do you go to school? You go to university so that you can get a degree, so that you can get a job using that degree in some capacity or another, like in an ideal system. But these people are going to go, and I wonder that the thing is going to be, do they know that when they get this degree, if they put this on a resume, people are going to look at it and go, "You don't have a degree. What do you do? Why is this on your resume?"
I will say this: that if somehow there was a significant portion of people who go through this process and genuinely believe that, then yeah, Peterson has failed to make it adequately clear. But right now, it's all just been talk. I imagine that when you go through the portal to pay money, I imagine it will be crystal clear for legal reasons on top of moral reasons. So you could say that in Peterson's talks about this in unofficial capacities on podcasts, he hasn't been he hasn't made it crystal clear that this place isn't accredited. However, he never said that it was accredited. The only thing he ever said is that he wanted to make it accredited 5 months ago. Your standard for malicious rhetoric is incredibly low.
Is there a lack of clarification on that idea?
Well, I think it's too early to know. I think that if we get to launch point and he still hasn't again, if people wind up being duped by this, I will agree with you. But I think that people aren't as silly as you want them to think, as you want me to think that they are. I don't think that'll happen. But if in 6 months people come out and there's a significant portion of them and they really thought that this was going to be an accreditation, then I'll eat my hat. But until then,
what do you think his I guess motivations are for this?
I think it's probably the same thing that he's been talking about for years.
Let's listen to this part real quick. Listen to this part real quick. Maybe this will help.
I can answer your question later.
Put things together. Yeah, you can answer the question later.
Your job, basically.
You'll be damn fortunate if we can provide you with a list of people who've graduated. And if you had any sense, you'll employ them preferentially because we did the rigorous screening work. And I know how to do the rigorous screening work because I studied that for 25 years. A degree from our university will signify high-level conscientiousness and general cognitive ability, and those are very valuable for any employer with a clue. So I think we can just skip the accreditation process and go right to the employers.
We are planning a soft launch in November.
Okay.
Specifically skipping the accreditation. I feel like that's a pretty clear admission that he's not accredited.
No.
You're explicitly saying that that's fantastic.
What I was saying that from Pad podcast to this podcast, they're saying, oh, now we're just skipping it. It's not necessary anymore. Originally, it was necessary, but now that it's not convenient because I couldn't put the hard work to get it, or I couldn't set up the infrastructure to do it, now let's just skip it. This is the hallmarks of someone who's just trying to make a buck.
Do you think he intends it to be educational? Do you think he intends it to be useful, or is this just a charlatan thing?
Oh no! Perish the thought. We assume.
Well, I mean, I think
says, oh God, no, that's not possible.
Here, let me tell you how I say it's a grift. A while back, when my mother was dealing with chronic pain after her hysterectomy and her cancer, people who might have believed that they can cure her with special homeopathic stickers to take her pain away and sold her a pack of stickers for $500 were grifters. Because if you are serious about what you do, and if you are seriously care about people's health, why are you laughing? What's funny to me is your leniency and your ability to let clear charlatans and grifters who don't take the rigorous steps to make sure that people are getting a proper service, a service that's actually going to help them, and using pedantic hyper specificity to wave away their moral culpability. No, that is divorced from how humans behave and what humans do. And it's almost like you're blind to the social cues here, to what's actually happening, because you're hyper fixating on the legal language of this. So in the same way that lady who sold my mom stickers for $500 a pack was a charlatan, so is Jordan Peterson with Peterson Academy. And if that's somehow a stretch to say, because he didn't literally say that he knows that his intentions deep down, I can't prove that intent beyond a reasonable doubt, then I cannot say grifter or charlatan, I'm not going there. I don't need beyond a reasonable doubt. I have my priors, I have history, I have rhetoric, and I'm going to use those to make sure that I don't get into grifter's way.
Well, if I just real quick before you respond, John.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead, John. Go ahead.
No, I mean, of course, I have a response. I mean, that was.
Yeah, go ahead. Mine was tangential. Go ahead.
No, but hold on to it though, Thomas. I did want to answer your question later too, so hold on to it. I do want to talk to you. But yeah, so I was laughing because I find that comparison absurd for a couple of reasons. Peterson and everybody who I know is on his list. Maybe you'll pull out, a magic wand, and your list will show that he's hiring unqualified people. And if so, I'll eat my hat. But from what I've seen, Peterson has a lot of experience in education, in higher education specifically. He just referenced that he has experience in terms of screening staff. I know that all the staff that I'm aware of have legitimate experience in higher education. So it's not like magic stickers to make you feel better. It's not like snake oil. He does have legitimate experience. Now, unfortunately, I'm pretty sure the divide between us is that if you don't see it as accredited, you think of it as inherently lesser, and there because he didn't go through the work and all that sort of stuff. And I think there's an argument for that. I think the existence of Peterson's Academy is the counter argument. It's the argument that, well, if you have the experience, if you have the know-how, if you hire the same people that the accredited universities were happy to hire, if you do all that, you can provide a somewhat of an alternative, even if it's not exact. You can provide this alternative, and you can do it for cheaper. This is the counter argument. What you're saying is that it's almost impossible to be a non-accredited
is it ever going to be a degree from Stanford or MIT?
I don't know. That this is the experiment.
Right? I mean, I don't doubt that he has probably experience screening people, but I mean, just watching what I watched, I would not be convinced enough to join. And I'm always skeptical.
No, neither would I.
Yeah, I'm always skeptical of brand new universities that pop up. You know what I mean? He's got to somehow tie it into some other school. He needs to work with his school on this if he's really serious about it. You know what I mean?
I mean, he's being hyper transparent about his thesis, about what this experiment is. He's saying, well, look, we're not accredited. We're actually skipping that because we think that going through our education will be a signifier to employers that will be valuable, and you can just skip over the accreditation and therefore get it for cheaper and get it from some people that you like. I agree this has never been done before, but that's why it's an experiment. He's trying it. And he's not being he's not playing coy like you would have had me believe about the fact that they're not accredited. He literally explicitly said they were skipping that part and trying to just go to the employers. And so people decide if they want to spend their money.
He hand waved it away after it was no longer possible. Right?
I don't care.
I say you do not care about the narrative and the rhetoric. You don't actually care. You are zero taking that into account.
No, Don.
If someone comes up to you in the street and they're shaking and scratching their neck and they're like, "Hey man, you want to buy this thing? It's really good. It's experimental. Yada yada yada." I was an ex-professor, whatever it might be, from this place, and he actually wasn't. You know who he is, but the entire setting and everything around it seems suspect. There is clear evidence to believe that it's suspicious and a grift. You're ignoring all of that unless you are willing to see an explicit problem and an intentional problem. You're ignoring all the other evidence because it doesn't fit your schema of things relevant here when they are relevant, because you would use it in any other context against any other charlatan.
I think there's also an angle that we haven't really talked about. There's almost this sort of sad admission that I see from conservative ideologues on this topic, right? Your ideas won't survive in the university system because they don't hold up to academic scrutiny. And so your avenue for if I could finish, your avenue here is instead to take those ideas and put them into these non-accredited systems, like for instance PragerU and those sorts of locations, and it's parading around as a kind of alternative education system, but I think it's more of an admission that your ideas won't stand up to academic scrutiny. I think there is this very it's a very sad admission, but it's true. I think the truth is that these ideas are not going to stand up to academic scrutiny, and that's why they're doing this.
Why did Brett Weinstein leave his college?
I don't recall.
Because he couldn't stand up to academic scrutiny?
Yeah, he
I don't
couldn't. He
recall.
didn't like
There
the
might
way
have
he,
been other
the
reasons.
campus had issues with certain professors.
Yeah, he was
Evergreen
harassed.
Evergreen University had some issues. Professors didn't like the way he was thinking about things or saying things. He was socially shamed by his university, and he retired, or he left his tenured. Yeah.
Yep,
But was
so-
it but was it something to do with like his academic work, like his papers and things like that, or was it something that it was like more of a the way that he was interacting with the populace, similar to how Jordan Peterson has gotten in trouble recently for interacting with
It
the
certainly
populace?
wasn't incompetence. I can tell you
Well,
that.
but was it something to do with his academic work? Because keep in mind, like what we
I
have this
have
strange
to admit,
view
I'm
of
probably-
academia sometimes, where we forget that the way in which academics interact with each other is through via papers, studies, those sorts of things. And the way you scrutinize an academic is you're going to scrutinize their work. You don't scrutinize them, right? You scrutinize their work. So you say, okay, so and so produced a paper. This paper says this. Let me take the time to critique this paper. Was he harassed about some paper that he wrote, or was it some behavior that he was doing that was in the social sphere? Because those are two different things.
To be honest, I'm fuzzy on the details. I could pull it up.
I'm pulling it. I'm
I'm sure.
I
John-
imagine very strongly that it was some sort of PR issue where he wasn't representing himself very well. Similar to like Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson was not ousted for academic works, right? He was ousted from academia because there's a standard of interaction that academics are supposed to uphold, and he didn't uphold it, and that's why he's in trouble.
Well, I appreciate that, Tart, because I think that's exactly the argument for the perfect. Because here's the difference between the guy scratching himself on the street, which is again beautiful, completely fair analogy, is that not only is there a negative interpretation, there's not really another reasonable positive interpretation. That's not the case for Peterson Academy. It's just not. Like we said, we just went to those two people who weren't conducting themselves according to the accredited university standards. But in both cases, we both agree that it wasn't due to incompetence. It wasn't due to inability to do their job of instructing at a high level. And so, for the people who want to learn from those people, who aren't welcome socially at universities, but who still have the experience and the know-how, this is an alternative. And I know it's a reasonable, positive interpretation because Peterson has been talking about this literally since he became a public figure. He's literally been talking this before he ever became a public figure. I'm not being approached randomly by some guy being sold something I didn't want. The conservative side of the aisle have been complaining about ideology in higher ed for like decades. I'm gonna bite my tongue on my description here. So I'm not.
Why?
Because I have some self-discipline and I also, try to remain civil. But it's not like I'm being approached it's not like we're being approached like there's no demand there and he's foisting it upon us. Conservatives have been complaining about the lack of an alternative for 30 or 40 years. And now he's attempting to provide an alternative. He's in a good position to do it. He can provide individuals who have experience in the actual higher ed, and he's going to do it for way cheaper than university. And he's going to see how it goes. And he's going to see if he can do it. And people can go in knowingly and intelligently and decide if they want to spend their money on this experiment or not. They can't.
I wouldn't do it.
Because that's
I wouldn't do it.
because that's how he's advertising it, right? As an
Yeah, but then
experiment,
also
as
there's
an
no reason-
honest, humble attempt to. No, they're doing it with Inception background music for their trailers. They're doing it with hyperbole. They're doing it by saying if you don't come to this university and you believe you're going to become a ruthless, bitter, angry person, because this is throughout that 2-minute video. In the 2-minute video, so that's in it. We can play. I'll pull it up again if you want. Earlier.
I believe you. That's actually something he would say.
Yeah. So the entire presentation of this product is not an academic product.
You mean he's marketing his product as good?
No, he's not marketing it for people who are actually trying to get degrees. He's marketing for for his fan base, like like Masterclass would do it, or any type of like subscription based lecture series.
What would it look like if he was marketing it to, I don't know, the types of people that you think can, intelligently make their own? Because apparently anybody outside of that audience is, helpless.
I mean, let's see. That's a good way, everybody.
What would that look like?
The way Capella University or Phoenix University are accredited to do it, right? We have this program. Are you looking for work in this field or this field? We can get you a training in here and we can connect you with these businesses who are looking for this work. We can provide you with this teaching, training, etc. You just present it as if you were presenting a school, but that's not what's being sold here. It's not. This is not how you sell it. This is not selling a school. This is selling something else.
Well, isn't it kind of characteristic, though, of the right to sort of complain about these sort of useless degrees that people waste a lot of money on? Like, the what is it? Gender studies is the one that they're always like, oh, this is a useless degree that won't get you a job. But this one sounds very similar to this. This is a gender studies for the Conservative Party. That's what this sounds like, is gender studies for the conservatives. It's a useless degree. It's a degree you're not. At least gender studies is like accredited.
Specify that comparison for me, will you?
So if I go to a 4-year university and I get a bachelor's degree in gender studies, the Conservative Party has routinely criticized and made jokes about how useless this degree is, how you're spending all this money and there's not actually a use for it. You're not going to find a job using that degree. There's lots of degrees that people, they'll make jokes about degrees in basket weaving and how it's just frivolous, people spending money for no reason, putting people in debt, those sorts of things. And here we have this kind of a degree that it doesn't seem like there's going to be any sort of rigorous use for it afterwards. Like, what would you do with a Jordan Peterson degree? Like, what would I do with that?
Well,
so it's like, well, if we don't really have, if you're going to complain about like the uselessness of degrees, then this one doesn't sound like it's going to be very useful at all. Then shouldn't you also kind of be against this one?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, actually. So I think the idea, and by the way, I think the right is wrong about higher education. I do agree that it's kind of sad. Like, I'm all for like the attempting at alternatives, but the right completely abandoning the university system is surrender, and it's a bad idea. So I agree with you on that front. But
agreed there. Okay.
To answer the question, the idea is that right now there's a monopoly, right? And the monopoly is of only schools that are accredited have sway with employers. And I'm not saying that monopoly is necessarily bad, like in the abstract. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is like that's been the status quo for a long time. And it became so much that the theory, anyway, that's coming out of the right and Peterson Academy is working out is that, well, really the accreditation itself is kind of what employers are looking for now. But that accreditation has become so inflated, like so winnowed in terms of its value, that if we provide an education, then the employers can just look at where the education was instead of looking at like the accreditation stamp. And then the employers will just value the school and the academy you came out of more than they value the technical accreditation. And then you can have a marketplace of competing schools of various prestiges. And then you can do away with and then the accreditation system, while still having value because it does maintain a standard, is not the only game in town. Now that's the idea of trying to create an alternative. And I don't think that that's the most unreasonable idea in the world, to be honest with you. I mean, does that answer your question, Tart? Or
yeah, I mean, I get what you're putting down. I'm understanding it.
Yeah. The idea is that
I'll give you my charitable interpretation.
I didn't actually answer your question. I just realized.
Oh, go ahead.
Let me finish because I feel bad. So right now, we don't know if it's going to be useful. Right now, if I got a random, from like, again, like a random website, like right now, it probably wouldn't be worth anything to employers. The idea is that if Peterson puts enough of his own legitimacy behind it, and the legitimacy of the professors that he's bringing in, you can break through that, and then all of a sudden the accreditation won't be the only thing that matters, and then all of a sudden the education will matter. So right now it's useless, but this is an attempt to make non-accredited degrees actually worth something in the future. So like, yeah, it's a risk, yeah, it's an experiment, but again, he's been perfectly explicit about that fact. I fail to see the deception, like I really do. I see the narrative, Don, that you want me to see. I'm not blind to it. I just don't weigh it as heavily as you do.
You don't see the narrative because, once again, you're not looking at the context, scope,
I just told you I do. I
And
just told you.
no, let me. When
Like,
I say
because I don't think it's as just because.
no, because you're okay. How about this? Instead of
Doesn't
saying
mean
you don't see, you are not taking. You're not recognizing the weight of the
Yeah, I don't
form
weigh it
of
as
the
heavily. Correct.
of the form by which this is being displayed forward.
Yeah. Okay,
Right?
Todd, you wanted to say something. Sorry.
I have a question for Don Don.
Yeah.
So John has said if this does not work out, he will eat his hat. Don
That's
Don,
not
if
what
it
I
does
said.
work out, let's say
Well,
hypothetically,
what do you mean by work
5,
out?
6 years. If it becomes something that like employers really want, and that employers look at it and they think this is a really good degree or something like that, hey, you've said you'll eat your hat if it is, doesn't work
That's
out,
not
right?
what I said. But
Does
let me
Don
specify.
Don will
That's not
Don
what I
Don
said.
eat his hat if it does?
If it does, not only will I eat my hat, I would join Peterson Academy.
Okay.
Yes. Let's go.
See,
By the
that's
What do you
the
mean?
question.
By the
Are
way,
you open to being wrong? I think
it would
both
be
of you
like
are.
you know how like Coursera has made like courses people can take where you watch videos and answer questions and all that type of stuff. Like that model is already leaps and bounds ahead of anything Jordan Peterson's academy model even looks like. Right? There's a reason why I'm comparing it to masterclass because that's really what it is.
MIT OpenCourseWare would blow it away.
Yeah, sure.
MIT OpenCourseWare, you can get a lot of basically teach yourself many degrees online for free.
Has anyone looked at the content for Masterclass? I've never even looked at it, but I know.
I
mean, I know it's laughably bad, but I've heard nightmare stories about how silly it is. If this is something like that, John, what do you think? If it ends up being that kind of material, is it going to be something good? Or I don't know if you've looked at
then I'll be
Masterclass.
deeply disappointed and upset. I won't eat my hat. I think there's a reasonable probability that this fails.
I'll eat your hat.
Oh, okay. I could have swore I heard you like explicitly say you'd eat your hat.
What I said was if people go into this and feel duped because they thought they were getting an accredited degree.
Oh, okay.
That was my original disagreement with Don Don, whether he was being, deceptive or vague about whether or not it's accredited. If there's a significant portion of people who go in there thinking they're going to get like an accredited degree and like they're really surprised and feel duped, then I'll eat my hat. But that's not going to happen.
Well, they think it's going to be equivalent to an accredited degree.
They think it could be.
No, they think it's going to be because that's what he's selling them. He's not saying it could be. He's saying it. This is going to be a replacement. Not in that. I do not have a clip of Jordan Peterson saying this is going to be a replacement for a regular university. But everything around it, from the tweets from the Peterson Academy Twitter, where they're criticizing, another reason why you should go to Peterson Academy, and they're like talking about Stanford. Another reason number 2, because of Cornell. Here's another reason why you should go here instead of Harvard. They keep doing that in the Twitter. They keep doing it in their advertisement. They present it as such, as an alternative, as an equivalence to. They use bachelor's degree. They comparing the prices. They're saying a bachelor's degree for $4,000 or whatever it might be. This is deceptive marketing. This is literally deceptive marketing.
If you are duped by this and you think you're going to, you shouldn't be going to Harvard. You shouldn't be going to Cornell. You shouldn't be going to Yale. Like, if you get duped by this, you shouldn't have been going there anyway.
Yeah. So, John, wait. Just one second. John, can you answer me the first question I asked you? What do you think?
No, ask away, bro.
What do you think his motivation was for it? In the first
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was partially monetary, but like Jordan Peterson's rolling in money. Like I don't think that that's the primary.
Yeah, he is a millionaire. That's for sure.
I think that the goal is the same goal he's been harping about in his Kermit voice for like 10 years, which is that he thinks that the universities are ideologically slanted, in a way that he doesn't like, and he thinks that you can provide an education of similar caliber for much less price if the accreditation monopoly goes away through competition. And he's been talking about this for a really fucking long time. And the reason that he compares this school to those schools, which I agree of why you're hesitant about it, but the whole point of the academy is actually we are like this accredited university in terms of education quality, in terms of this, in terms of that, and we're better on price. The only difference is that we're not in the accreditation club. That is the whole pitch. That's the point of the product. That is the pitch. So, I think it's an ideological thing. I think that he wants to do it. I mean, I think it's going to make him money. I also think he thinks he can make the world better. And, if he can employ some of his friends, I'm sure he's happy to do that too.
Maybe he can.
Yeah.
There are critiques of higher education that I think are warranted. One of them is that it creates this sort of like artificial scarcity of intellectual individuals and things like
Right.
that. There's an artificial scarcity to it that
Yeah.
these university systems and a more ideal system would be one where people would be able to get this information and be able to demonstrate their capacity in a much cheaper setting. I agree with all that. I just don't think that this is the right way to overcome that. I think the right way to overcome that. I think the right way to overcome that is the way that the rest of the world has already done so, which is by allowing for the school systems to not be paid, like not be private systems, right? We don't privatize them. They made them public, and then now you go based on your scores, and so universities around the world are better off for that. So I think that they're going the exact opposite direction of the rest of the world. I think that's a bad move.
John, do you have something last to say, and then let's move on because we're gonna run out of show time.
Thomas is doing a better job moderating than me. God,
you're all in this, man. Hey, look, this is the topic.
I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, I just if you guys haven't noticed this about me by now, is that accusations of malintents are something that I take very seriously. And if you want to say it's a personality flaw, if you want to say my burdens of proof are too high, like I get the case, but I take accusations of malintent very seriously, especially when there's reasonable alternative explanations that are consistent with the character. I think that there's a perfectly reasonable positive motive. I think that there's a genuine thesis behind Peterson Academy, which is the attempt to create an actual marketplace of competition with higher education. And I think that the level of quality of the people involved and their experience gives it some more legitimacy than some guy scratching himself on the sidewalk. I mean, and I think that Peterson has been perfectly clear that this is not accredited. I think that's the point of the institution. I don't think anybody's going to be duped. I think everybody's going to is going to be perfectly informed when they spend money, and I hope that it works. And
time will tell.
Unfortunately,
time will tell. Hey, we'll know in about a couple of years.
Unfortunately, I think it should be illegal in the same way that people who sell homeopathy advertise it. That's the analogy. He's selling you his academic homeopathy, a quick fix where you get to beat the system for cheap.
So next topic, guys. What was what is it, John?
Next topic was.
Want to cover the debate?
No, it wasn't. It was something else, wasn't it?
Well, there's a lot of them that you mentioned. I don't know which one.
You can go to the debate. Hold on, I'm gonna find it. I know.
Well, the government did not shut down.
Oh yeah, but that's
happy news, everyone.
Happy news.
They just extended it 45 days. It's not really
45 days.
That's a non-story. That's the
non-story. The opposite of things happened. Everything stayed the same, even though we thought it wasn't going to stay the same. The weather is good.
I didn't think we were heading for a real shutdown. Like the left, like the Republicans, they have no leverage. I was pretty confident they were going to get stared down personally.
The MAGA and alt-right does not like Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah.
They are mad. Ooh, they big mad on that one.
We can talk about that if you want.
Yeah, go for it. What do you think? I think he made the right move.
McCarthy gets way too much hate. I think he's being massively effective for having like a slim majority in the House, which is like it's like the weakest arm. Having a slim majority in the House and like being in the opposition in the other two branches of government, in the Senate and in the executive. I think he's done a fine job. I think that the people in the Freedom Caucus, while I admire their heart, kind of just don't understand the on the ground realities of their utter lack of leverage. To go for the world shaking change when you actually have control of the three arms of power, like asking for the moon and the sun and the stars when you have like a toothpick as your lever
as collateral.
It's insane.
They had nothing. I was like, what are they
don't
doing?
Have a plan. They just know that they want things to be better, but they don't have a plan, and they don't like the plan on how you would actually get there. They want to have a touchdown without actually driving down the field. It's insane.
I admire the cojones. Like this is where I go. I admire someone's cojones to have nothing and be like, try to play their bluff as best they can. I admire that. However, they had nothing here. I'm sorry. They were screwed. They were screwed from the beginning. But I can't help but sense there's a little bit of a nefarious nature behind this. Kind of putting on my Machiavellian hat, as John likes to call it.
Yes.
The kind of strategy they could be employing here is essentially, one, they want to play up to their constituents,
Yep.
that they are fighting for them, right? They want to say, hey,
Yep.
even if we have nothing, we'll fight tooth and nail. But the other thing is, why do they not want funding for the Ukraine war? It's like they want Russia to win. And I'm going like, but what would be their motivation for Russia winning? Well, if he wins under Biden, it's good for them because they could say, under Biden's leadership, so and so lost the war, and they play up a lot of the war hawkism. And have you ever noticed that conservatives also only ever really call for these tax cuts? They only call for budget and spending reductions when there's a Democrat. Only when there's a Democrat.
I know.
There's never a time. It's never a problem any other time. Like.
You tie so much up into like one sentence. It's unbelievable.
I'm sorry. I do talk fast. Yeah, Travis says I should slow down too.
Like so I think Machiavellian wise, on the first thing, what was the first thing? Oh, about how like it looks. Yeah, that would be the idea. Except that would be stupid because the thing is that for the general, the Republicans got to win over the moderates, and if this government shutdown happened, it would have looked like the Republicans' fault. Well, earlier on, because Biden said, I refuse to negotiate, and then wound up negotiating, they had more leverage. Because if that government shutdown happened, it would have looked like Biden's fault. So maybe that's the Machiavellian motive. It's a stupid Machiavellian motive in my mind, which is kind of in line with that side of the house. In terms of the Ukrainian thing, I highly doubt it. I don't think they're that much of an evil genius. I think the reason they want to pull out of Ukraine is they think it's wasteful and they think it's good. Their constituents who are isolationists, it's good for them. I don't think
liberals have a bad habit of underestimating the creativity of conservatives. Sometimes they are really creative like that, and I'm not trying to attribute like a malicious idea to them. I'm thinking like if I was playing chess and I want to win against my opponent, why would I make this move? And I'm going like, because it would look really bad on Biden if Ukraine loses.
It would be an unbelievable reversal though, because for at least for the Freedom Caucus, which is the right flank in the House, to say like, oh, Ukraine isn't our business, we should pull out. The more intelligent version of this is that we should force both of them to a table, end it, and then get out as quickly as possible. But that's not exactly what everybody's saying. It would be the most crazy reversal ever, which I don't put past American politics by any means, to say we should get out. We get out, things go bad. Look how bad Biden is for letting us get out that, right?
John, do you think we should
they would do that, yeah.
Do you think we should be giving
crazy. I don't know if it would even work, but, in today's world, maybe you could have that level of reversal and it would work. I don't hate the headcanon. I don't think it's particularly likely, but it's possible.
Well, sometimes but we see it all the time. The thing is American people have a short attention span. They have a short memory span too.
Really true.
2-3 years ago, people forget about stuff. They forget that so and so did such and such, and they'll go and they don't put the pieces together to say, no, wait, that was actually the other person's fault. They'll forget about it because all you have to say is under so and so's leadership, X happened. Whether or not that leadership was actually to blame, it was in fact true that it happened under their leadership. Sorry, Thomas, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay. I just wanted to ask quickly to John, just because I like clarifying questions, and I don't know John as well.
I love clarifying questions.
I want to get to know you better. So
yeah, bud.
What do you think that we should be supplying Ukraine money and weapons?
Yes, especially at the beginning. At the beginning, it was a great move. Like, in terms of bang for buck, like, we got to cut the Russian military's, army in half for,
and
the return on investment was crazy.
While testing our capabilities against them.
And then also, of course,
sanctions. Sanctions. Yeah.
Also, it's good to save lives. I know that.
Hundreds of people are still dying there on each side, I'm sure, every day.
Right, and that's
not like it was with the first. I'm sorry.
So at the beginning, very much yes. I think now we've reached the point where I feel like mission creep might be starting to set in. I don't really know what Biden says the goal is. Zelensky says the goal is to take back Crimea and the Donbass. I don't know how realistic that is. I'm not a military expert. Maybe that is realistic. But my concern is that we're going to kind of slowly start to winnow down support, which we've already seen. Winnow down support until it just kind of becomes like a 47th or whatever, the Korean War parallel type of thing. Yeah. And we're basically going to end up in the same place we started anyway. I think that any attempt to evade that ending would involve a escalation in terms of the resources that we put into Ukraine. That's enough that it makes things a little bit scary and unstable, and I don't know how Putin reacts. Right. So my thought is that if the most likely scenario is that we're going to wind up kind of in like a, again, Korean parallel anyway,
like a
then why
demilitarized
not
zone
just,
kind of thing.
yeah, like just we never really call off the war, but here's the zone, and like
Yes,
nobody crosses
right.
it. Like if that's where we're going to wind up anyway, and it's going to be kind of roughly around like splitting up Crimea and the Donbass, like roughly like in the middle there. Why not just negotiate for that early and set it up faster and save a whole bunch of save some treasure and save a whole lot of blood? Like why not? Because right now,
doesn't Zelensky say he's still open to negotiation, or has he closed that off?
Zelensky says that he wants to win, and winning involves taking back Crimea, which has been Russia's since 2014, which doesn't make it legitimately theirs, by the way, at all. Like, for the record, just to say this, Russia's absolutely morally in the wrong. They invaded and they killed innocents. Now, NATO was tactically stupid and like kind of pushed it to that point, but ultimately Russia's evil. That said, I don't know I don't know if Zelensky's willing to negotiate if that involves giving up the Donbass and Crimea. But if Biden says the checks stop coming unless we stop a negotiation now that gives up part of the Donbass and part of Crimea, then he gets to save face, right? Because then he was forced into it. And then Putin gets to save face because then he got at least something, and he gets to keep his head in front of the oligarchs. Like,
what about understanding the diplomatic problems with our allies that people in Europe are like, I think Putin needs to be, we have to keep this going a little bit longer, push him a little bit more, at least get him out of the Donbass, because taking him out of the Donbass before we start saying, okay, it's time for negotiations, is kind of, saying, okay, you can invade, but you just can't try to go full ham. And then what we're going to see is tiny invasions here and there throughout the years, as opposed to saying, no, Donbass is back. We can talk negotiations now. We're not repeating this game. Putin and Russia's oligarchs need to learn the lesson that this is the result of their action. They can't just do what they want to do and then occupy lands because they feel like they can do it.
Yeah,
I also think this is kind of showing like the lack of American grit, because if you notice, we're sort of losing steam here. But that's exactly how this is the play that Russia's played throughout history. Is what they'll do is they'll send waves and waves and waves of troops and soldiers and vehicles, and the way they win is very different than the way we win. The way they win is just by keep pouring, having that grit, and continue pouring the soldiers until you win.
Into the meat.
Now. It's the meat grinder. They play the meat grinder.
Talking about like Syria?
We're talking about like, but let me think.
Even World War II. Even World War
Russia.
II. Yeah.
World War II Russia. Yeah. That's how the Russian army won things.
Have more shit than you. Like that's.
And America lacking grit. The problem is that there was one good point made in the debate, the GOP debate. It was made by Mike Pence. He said that if we lose Ukraine, this is a green light to China to take Taiwan, and that is exactly right. What we're doing is we're demonstrating that the American people lack the grit to hold on to a situation and continue doing the right thing. We do the right thing for a little while, but then somewhere along the lines we go, but it kind of costs a lot, and we shouldn't be. We lose that momentum and we lose that passion for the world. And when we do that, the thing is that's exactly what lets Russia win. That's how they win. That's how they've won every war. The way that they win, just pour it out until the other enemy gives up. Even if you're losing, doesn't matter. You just keep pouring.
I mean, listen,
if we don't want to capitulate to autocrats, that's for sure.
If they're winning conditions, or let's take the Donbass, the Crimea Donbass, but they reach for the stars and they hit the moon, they're okay. They can't get the moon. There's no question about it that if we give Russia the moon, Tarta's right, it's to be a signal to other nations around the world that if we put enough pressure, if we push hard enough, we're going to get what we want, because America is not going to stop it. The rest of the world, Europe, NATO, they're not going to do anything. They're a lot, right? So
exactly. I mean, there's a real idea here, and to be honest, this is one of the things. This is why I'm kind of uncertain on this issue. As much as like my heart is like isolationist, I realize the concerns in what you say. I would say that the idea, just to play devil's advocate for the other side, would be part of the negotiation would be NATO security guarantees, because Ukraine didn't have that before. And as far as I'm aware, Russia has not attacked a NATO country that's bordering it. And I feel that if you negotiate, and wherever the lines get drawn, or where the lines get drawn, like Russia's army has already been cut in half. They were going for all of Ukraine. All they're getting are a couple of scraps. at most in this hypothetical reality. Again, they're already hemorrhaging because they've lost half their army, and they've lost a lot of treasure as well. And part of those negotiations is okay. Well, now Ukraine has NATO security guarantees. They didn't have it before. That's why you miscalculated and thought you could do this. Now the line is really fucking clear. And now, just like with every other NATO country, with all the NATO countries, same defense rules apply. You put a toe over that line, and then we blow your head off. Now it's really fucking clear. Never again. Like I see the merit in that argument as well. Again, I'm of a divided mind about this, but I don't think that's an unreasonable position.
John,
And
can I ask real quick? Why do you
Yeah.
feel? You said it the first was something I noticed. You said I feel isolationist. Why do you feel that way?
Oh, it's just my natural instinct. It's like I like America. I don't like the idea of us spending a lot of taxpayer dollars overseas. Even though I do understand that it does benefit America indirectly and that it's good for the global order, I get that. But I'm just naturally kind of like a focus at home guy. It's just my instinct.
I got you.
Not all my instincts are correct, but I have to correct for them.
I was previously like in my time. There was a time where I was very isolationist, but then there's things in war theory. Like for instance, it's called ground control. It's about the amount of ground that you control on the planet determines where you are in the basically
Yeah.
in the lineup of things against other countries. And so one of America's biggest strategies has been saying, "Hey Japan, hey Germany, you don't have to build a big army after World War II. Instead, we will cover you. We'll cover you. Oh, hey South America, if somebody invades you, we'll come in and we'll kick their asses for you." And that ground control has given us huge bargaining power on the world stage.
Yeah.
Another thing is that there's also the ocean. One of the reasons we have such a large navy is
Yep.
because of ground control. So the amount of territory you can control at any given time determines how powerful you are relative to the rest of the country.
I mean,
And
if-
if we show that we can't control this part of the world, the Ukraine, we can't stop Russia. If we can't demonstrate that, that is in fact a green light to China. And Mike Pence was completely right on that one.
Well, we could stop Russia, but the problem is that the escalation for us to like stop Russia makes things too hot to justify if it's not our border is kind of the risk. But to your point, like, yeah, prevent defense is cheaper. It's much cheaper to spend a little bit all the time to keep shit normal than to like wait for them to be in your red zone and then have to like deal with it then. Sorry for the football metaphors.
But imagine we actually had a functioning UN. Imagine
That would
we
be nice,
actually
right?
imagine we had an ability for nations to actually make decisions in a congressional hall and resolve diplomatic issues in a real way without, America, China, Russia, and big countries being like, yeah, I don't give a fuck. I'll do whatever I want. You guys suck.
Yeah.
In the most hyperbolic way. But you know what's funny about Americans being isolationists? All it takes is to be a son of an immigrant or be an immigrant to recognize the horrors of isolationism. Right? Like that's really where you have to go. Like people like me being an immigrant to this country absolutely see like, oh, isolationism is not the way to go. My great grandparents, hey, they survived the Holocaust. I mean, the Holocaust happened because Europe was isolationist, right? The America First movement in the 1930s were like, yeah, we're not touching that. It's none of our problems. England and other countries, France were like, no, that's Germany and Poland's problem. This isolationist framework of like what happens over there is their problem. We got to focus over here. This is what it's the same thing of like, oh, someone is suffering. There are moral atrocities happen.
Well, I
It's
mean,
not my fault,
everything
it's
is
out of
our
my-
backyard.
Yeah.
It's also
Everything on the planet is our backyard because it's not a very big globe. We're all going to affect each other economically.
Not anymore, anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Economically, going to war is suicide or doing anything like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That, for the rest of the planet, for everything.
Yep. Complete isolationism is definitely short-sighted. I agree. I mean, another part of the instinct just comes from like just all of our stuff in the Middle East, which is just like nightmare fuel, like mission creep. We never defined the goal. We were there for a long time. We were too arrogant, and we thought that we could like do it our way. Like it's like it's partially just the disaster that was the Middle East that like just has that thing in the back of my mind, which is like, why did we not learn the lesson? Why are we again no longer defining mission success in a reasonable way? Like so like that's where the instinct comes from.
Good point.
Now you can't march like that like it's gospel truth and it's like the only thing that matters. But it's definitely something that's never going to get out of the back of my head, which is like, we've already played this game once and we lost it going down a similar road that we're going down right now.
Well, what's the difference between Ukraine and Afghanistan, Ukraine and Iraq, Ukraine and Vietnam, Ukraine, right? the difference is, first of all, the idea of like, oh, because the bordering countries are communist and every communist, we have to step in now. But this type of like romantic, like, oh, we're gonna save the world type of energy.
Well, they're communist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not
I agree.
communist.
I agree.
And
Communist.
what's happening in Ukraine is a modern
Ironic.
nation in good diplomatic relations with us being invaded.
Right, that's a moral case, though.
No, it's not just a moral case. It's also like, how can we say that these people are like our diplomatic allies if we're not willing to help them through this, right?
Yeah.
Keep in mind, there's also other reasons, and this is to appeal to John Parker's Machiavellianism. This is strategy. Look, Ukraine is the breadbasket of the world, right?
So,
That is Europe's breadbasket.
Yeah.
Give Russia give somebody the control of the food, and who gives a shit who makes its laws, right? So like once you give them, if they are successful in this endeavor to take Ukraine and take the breadbasket, right? They have the control of the food, and that's Europe.
Oh, it's the golden
So-
rule. He
I know.
He who
I
has the
agree.
gold makes the rules.
Yeah, I mean, like, if your country is the one I have to buy food from, why would I ever oppose you? And so this is a big brute move on Russia's part, because if they were successful in this endeavor, there are costs that we're not thinking about. Like, for instance, you lose Ukraine, you lose Europe. Like that's the long term.
Putin put all his eggs in the basket of oil. You know, with climate change on the rise, people trying to move away from oil. It's a problem, so they need to put their eggs somewhere else. Oh, look, grain. Oh, look, more oil right there west of the Crimea. We can figure it out. We can find a place for it.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. That's why I think that, getting involved in the initial was 100% the right move. 1,000%. All I'm saying now, and this will be my last word on this, is I would like to bring this to a close sooner rather than later, and I think America is going to have to get a little bit stingy with its money in order to force both countries to the table, and to bring an end to the death as quickly as possible and re-promote stability and make sure that this never happens.
I think that's what we hope.
I think we've reached the point now where either it's going to end fast, it's going to go hot and scary, which is a low priority, or it's going to go cold and long. Well,
what do the Ukrainian people want?
Like I said, Zelensky wants to take back all of the Donbass, and take back all of Crimea.
And join the European Union.
And join NATO and join the EU.
So that's going to be, if we go to the negotiation table, that's going to be the thing that Putin's going to say. He doesn't.
Yeah, we're not letting you go to the EU.
That would be a hard stop there. That's an end of we're not following down that path.
I imagine as long as
I feel like Putin's already lost. Like that's the thing. Like he's.
I don't think so. Right? Like they were aiming for the stars, hoping to hit the moon, type of situation.
I think so. Maybe.
Sure.
But I don't know. I feel like if you lose half your army to get an extra fucking 150 square miles of the Donbass, and you lose.
I don't think it's ever going to end.
That feels like a value calculation that doesn't.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to end until they stop. The leadership stops wanting to be a part of the EU, because I don't think Russia's ever going to allow that. I don't know if it's within their control. They might be able to join the EU right now. I don't know how it works out, but if they do join the EU, or if they join NATO, then we would have to defend them, and that would be a war, and yada 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 yada. Right. Yeah. So I'm with you on pretty much everything you say, and I'm glad you're not 100% isolationist.
Yeah. No. That's very interesting. I think we're going to move topics now, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Discipline.
Let's go.
I have a little bit of it. I can shut the fuck up on occasion.
We're learning.
This is what we call character growth. This is what we call a character arc.
John's anime arc of just coming to a meeting and taping his mouth, just while wearing heavy body armor, and then taking it off and being able to
I do something similar to that almost every day. This is why you guys get so much. It just all gets pent up, and then it comes out at you guys. Yeah. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about, speaking of, just to immediately contradict the idea of me shutting up, is we're going to talk about the second GOP debate and how it was bad. So the first thing I want to do is I want to know, first of all, who watched it? Raise your hand if you watched it.
I did.
I did. I watched half of it.
Can you tell me the members? How many was it?
So it was everybody from last time except for Asa Hutchinson.
Okay.
Doug Burgum, the unstoppable political force, equal and opposite to Donald Trump's immovable political object. Chris Christie, Mike Pence.
Fuck Chris Christie, by the way. Chris Christie, if you're watching, fuck you.
I will never forget what you did to that bridge during Katrina. During Sandy.
Okay, what happened?
That bridge.
What happened?
He shut down the bridge because he's in the middle.
That's old news. Old news. Very long time ago.
He's just an unpopular fatso. Let's move on.
He's a very unpopular fatso.
He's very funny though.
But I do like that he calls Trump out. He's like, man, this guy's. But let's not forget, after 2016, that man's nose was so far up, he was smelling his fucking prostate.
It's true.
He was, yeah. He was an ass kisser, and then he turned around. He did turn around, but look, you flip flopped on that one.
It's kind of the story of everyone around Trump is like they really like him, and then like they just like turn around and start to hate him. It's very much
the story of politics.
There's a common denominator here.
The common denominator.
I wonder if there's a pattern.
The common denominator is everybody sucking up to Trump, being Trump's friend, and then Trump not quite liking what they're doing, and then just like trashing them as they leave his orbit. It's also like a cycle of that going on. Like, remember the McMasters and the fucking John Kellys and all that stuff.
Yeah. There's also a great market for tell-all books for people who don't like Trump, but that's not really the reason.
I think the most hilarious one was what was Waldorf face? What was that guy look like a walrus?
I have no idea.
He's skinny, white guy with white hair.
Oh, John Bolton. Yeah,
John Bolton. Yeah,
dude, that guy was terrifying. That guy's like, do you know the dynamic in the White House was like that guy is like the most unhinged war hawk of all.
He wants to invade Iran. He wants to invade Iran.
Like Trump would just hold John Bolton on a leash, like he's like a rabid bulldog. He's like, I could let go of this. I could, like airstrike your entire.
If Bolton was our president, there would be a push to be going to Iran. That's a fact.
Yeah.
But, I think if Bolton was our president, we would be having missiles in Taiwan right now.
That is true. That is
Seoul over in Korea might just be a smoking wreck if Bolton was president.
Okay. Anyway, everybody in the debate.
Sorry.
Don has a.
I just have 3 minutes of the debate from the Washington Post.
Does I know. Just let me.
Yeah, why not?
Let me list the candidates real quick. It's Doug Burgum, Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy, Tim Scott. I don't know why he's still there. And
why is Vivek still there?
I don't know.
He's not running for president. He's running for vice or for cabinet or for a podcast.
I mean, half of them are. I don't even know why he's there. That guy's face is the most punchable. Like, if it's just his smile.
The things that he has that
tonight,
like.
He got less.
Or not tonight. Sorry, the things he said the other night were so cringe. He had by far the most cringe takes I've ever seen on a Republican candidate stage, and that's in comparison to what the stupid shit Trump said. He's even dumber than Trump, and that is insane.
Well, he was better than the first debate. He did dial down the smarm because he saw his likability numbers.
Well, there's Chris Fatsy right there.
Yeah, Krispy Kreme.
Donald Trump hides behind the walls of his golf clubs and won't show up here to answer questions like all the rest of us are up here to answer. He put $7 trillion on the debt. He should be in this room to answer those questions.
When we have a conversation about the things that are happening on this stage, we think about the fact that Vivek just said we were all good people, and I appreciate that because last debate he said we were all bought and paid for. And I thought about that for a little while and said, I can't imagine how you could say that knowing that you were just in business with the Chinese Communist Party and the same people that funded Hunter Biden millions of dollars was a partner of yours as well. It's not nonsense.
We opened a subsidiary in China. But you know what I did that was different than every other company? We got the hell out of there. And when I started my next company, Strive, right when it
I'm glad Vivek pulled out of his business deal in 2018 in China. That must have been about the time you decided to start voting in presidential elections. So
Donald Trump failed on this as well. He said he was going to build a wall across the whole border. He built 52 miles of wall and said Mexico would pay for it. Guess what? I think if Mexico knew that he was only going to build 52 miles, they might have paid for the 52 miles.
Vivek, if you let Putin have Ukraine, that's a green light to China to take Taiwan.
A win
for Russia is a win for China.
Excuse me, if you have
but
a chance.
I forgot, you like China. I honestly, every time I hear you, I feel a little bit dumber for what you say. You were in business with the Chinese that gave Hunter Biden $5 million. We can't trust you. We can't trust you.
I have to be very clear about this. Transgenderism, especially in kids, is a mental health disorder.
Florida's new Black History curriculum says, quote, slaves develop skills which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. You have said slaves develop skills in spite of slavery, not because of it.
That was written by descendants of slaves. These are great Black history scholars, so we need to stop playing these games. I reject this idea that pro-lifers are to blame for midterm defeats.
I appreciate Tim. We've known each other a long time, but he's been there 12 years and he hasn't done any of that. Where
I voted no on all. I voted on most of those things.
We've waited and nothing has happened.
You didn't ask the only guy that's been in tech. You have energy questions. You don't ask anything. But I'm just going to say right now, when nobody else done the big fights, North Dakota was leading the charge. We won the battle. Energy, economy, national security have been talking about it since day one. And now finally, good, we're having the conversation about it. But we've got the answer in North Dakota.
And I want to look at that camera right now and tell you, Donald, I know you're watching. You can't help yourself. I know you're watching, okay? And you're not here tonight, not because of polls and not because of your indictments. You're not here tonight because you're afraid of being on the stage and defending your record. You're ducking these things. And let me tell you what's going to happen. You keep doing that, no one up here is going to call you Donald Trump anymore. We're going to call you Donald Duck.
Oh my God! Listen,
Dude,
What a
Christy,
bad line. Oh
it's horrible. I gotta
It's so
say, I gotta say
cringe.
this.
I can't believe
I gotta-
you
so
actually
cringe.
said
Hang on.
Is
I
that
got
a
to say this
thing?
before I forget it.
Society's dead.
Yeah, let's go to
I gotta
Thomas.
say this before I forget
I
it.
don't want to live on this planet anymore.
Chris Christie in 2016, because I followed that election pretty closely just out of interest. He was like Trump's right-hand man. He kissed his ass. He was like hoping to get in the, I guess, the cabinet or something. And then that was one of the most like bad breakups that was in the Trump orbit. Does everybody pretty much agree with that? Like
Yeah,
that's
for
hilarious. It's so. I'm sorry. I just had to bring that up. It drives me insane. He's
I just want to give them all nicknames because I can never remember all their names. So, like, we got Haley, who is Walmart brand Sarah Palin, Chris Krispy Kreme. And you just go down the list, and then all weird Vivek. It's like, I mean, come on. But this whole debate, the entire debate, was one of the most cringe events I've ever seen. This was painfully cringe. There were a handful of good lines though, and I actually really agree with one thing that Haley said. She said, "Every time I hear you, I feel a little bit dumber," and that is so painfully true. I don't know if any of you ever feel that way about listening to Vivek, but everything he said was so stupid it hurt.
Not to confuse Vivek with Nivek.
Yeah, not to confuse Vivek with Nivek.
Well,
I had never seen.
You're all culturally insensitive.
I had never seen Vivek in person before. That hair blows my mind.
That hair.
Who's the guy who looks like the human version of like Big Bird? Like an AI would make a human version of Big Bird.
Oh, Bird. It's a. Burgum. I just said we can name him Big Bird actually because I'm not going to remember his name. I can't remember these people's names for some reason.
The inevitable Doug Burgum.
Are you a fan of Doug Burgum?
I am a Doug Burgum Republican.
No.
Big Bird Republican.
John, is there anybody on that?
You got to return to the Thomas Jefferson physiognomy, and nobody has that better than Doug.
John? Is there anybody on that stage that you would trust around the country?
Yeah, of course.
Which ones?
I like DeSantis a lot. I've noticed he got cut up more than anybody else on that clip. On the answer about the teaching on slavery, they cut off the first part of his answer where he actually addressed the substance. I think Nikki Haley's right like 90% of the time, and the other 10% of the time I really disagree, and like I really hate that 10%. But the other 90% of the time I trust her.
She has said some silly stuff.
Yeah. Pence also, like, I know he gets hate, especially from my corner of the right, but Pence is overhated. He just is. Like, Pence is a good guy. I
don't trust anyone who calls his wife mother. Period.
Yeah, look,
that's weird. I do agree that that's weird. He's not my
mother.
First.
Oh, come mother. Let's have our Sunday hanky panky. Oh yes, father.
I wouldn't mind if
like
he
daddy
if he
and mommy,
wasn't
but like
so,
taken too strict.
Huh?
I'm so sorry. There's got to be a delay or something. I keep on interrupting people. I apologize. The only reason I'd be against Mike Pence is the homosexual thing. He does not like them, and he has been involved in what was that? Where it's not Pray the Gay Away, but it's some kind of organization that I guess
the ex-gay it's literally called X.
Is it like Focus on the Family or something like that?
That's one of them. Yeah, Focus on the Family. My mom used to listen to that as a kid. That's like a terrible thing to listen to. It's awful.
I don't think it would have that much of an impact on federal policy, given just where the legislature is. But I understand that concern. I think Tim Scott's a solid guy. It's weird that he doesn't have a family.
Tim Scott actually seems like he might be an honest individual, but I don't know anything.
Tim Scott is a nice guy. Tim Scott's a solid guy. He just has no chance.
DeSantis is too proto-fascist for me to even entertain.
So who has a chance, John?
DeSantis is the only guy with a chance to beat Trump. Okay. Like realistically speaking, like
yes, that's correct.
This is really the truth, and even he has like a farce chance in a hurricane.
How close are the statistics though? What's the numbers?
Oh my god! Like I don't know. Trump is like riding high 40s, 50s, and DeSantis is like in the 15 to 25% range.
Oh god!
It's really bad.
But can we
the only
really?
Way he has chances of all the other candidates go the fuck away like really quickly.
But can we really recognize the fact that DeSantis does represent the part of the authoritarian right? His policies in Florida have been very, especially when it comes to education, have been very authoritarian. So.
Yeah, and there was a lot of cringe stuff that happened around education. I don't know if you were listening, John, but Chris Christie said something to the effect of that there's an issue where the president is in bed with the teachers unions, and he's referring to Jill Biden. Like he says, "Oh, he's sleeping with one." And I was watching one, and one guy, like one of the guys I was watching with, was like, "Is he talking about his wife?" He's like, he's criticizing him for sleeping with his wife? And I was like, yeah, that's what he's criticizing him for sleeping with his wife. It was a really awkward line. Chris Christie had so many awkward lines that it was painful.
No, so many of the lines just sucked. Like, there's something like an argument there about, like, unions, but that's just the worst way to do it ever. I mean, we could talk about like the substance of policy, like if you really want to. I was kind of wanting to steer this in more just
if
like
Don wants to, I'll listen.
There was a lot of
policy. What policy do you want to talk about?
Like you were just talking about like proto-fascism in regards to Florida education. Like we can talk that if you want. I think there's more fertile ground over on just
go for it
analysis as well.
Well, when we talk about proto-fascism, we're talking about a combination of a few things, right? Not just in the material sense of like the way the government is organized, but also in like the cultural aspect of how a cult of the leader, an obsession with a plot, using means as an ends, charting education, banning books, like all these specific things that DeSantis seems to both talk about and employ. Hyperfixation on gender and queerness and transness. These are very.
You think this is like dictator light? Like
not even dictator light, just like the primordial ooze by which dictators go, "What's up?" And like DeSantis is rife in that ooze, and he's showing little, like you're seeing a bubbling in the cauldron where you expect the dictator come out and be like,
I'm an asshole.
I
consider Trump a wannabe dictator light. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so he is.
I know Ron DeSantis isn't like that exactly, so I just thought I'd make the distinction.
Yeah. Well, both the Republican Party and Democratic Party, even though very different in the way they run things, are generally like neoliberal.
Yeah, neocons. Yeah, I got you.
Parties. Yeah. The appeal to like a strong man and of a one person gonna get the job done type of like heroicism.
That's definitely neocon.
It is found within like a proto-fascist movement, and it has been for a while. So. That's the parallelism drawing, and the way, and obviously book banning, education banning, focusing on gender minorities. These were very ubiquitous things through Mussolini's Vichy France,
it is very true that the governments get to have a say in the curriculum of the public schools under their command.
That's not what I'm specifically talking about.
Sometimes they don't decide not to include things.
No, it's not exactly what
you said. He was talking about the material, and what else did you say you were talking about?
Not just strictly the material, but the form of which it takes.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's similarities. I mean, you just pointed out the fact that there's similarities. Now, those don't concern me too much, because from what I understand about the underlying political philosophy is that it doesn't really allow for that sort of thing. But it's possible he breaks from the philosophy.
I mean, I think where I disagree with a lot of people, and a lot of people on the right as well on the right do this. They kind of think philosophy first, and almost if that informs action. Philosophy and our reasoning is usually the way in which we justify that which we're already doing, or at least social institutions are already doing. And in a way, we're kind of seeing like I will let's put it this way. I have a hard time distancing these parallels when they were on stage at Turning Point USA like 2.5 years ago, literally saying on stage, Marjorie Taylor Greene saying it shouldn't be bad to say this is a Christian nation. Should be a Christian nationalist nation. I'm a Christian nationalist. That's a good thing. On stage saying we must put an end to all transgenderism. Michael Knowles on that stage, and then that followed up with DeSantis coming. We wear the truth of God across our belts, while there were people with swastikas protesting in support outside the venue. Like you can't just make that image disappear, along with all the other parallels coming across. And that's, again, I'm talking about the form that it's taking, not so just the material of how it is currently.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that I'd say that Christian nationalism is a really weird term on the right. It's gotten like more popular, and the reason why it's difficult is because it's semantically overloaded. Like people mean very different things. There are some corners of the right that I am aware of, who like really want to get rid of the separation between church and state, and they have their reasons, and I get it. I also think
parents.
Yeah, I also think they're wrong. And there's another type of Christian nationalism, which is just like we used to have a cultural identity of Christianity. That was our social fabric. We no longer have social fabric. We should bring this back as like the default.
Absolutely not. I don't want a Christian identity.
We should also be like nationalistic again and not so, globalist and weird. And like those, like you don't have to like either of those. I'm sure you hate them both, but let's just be real. Those are two very different things.
Well, that country's not here for me, and it's not a country here for Thomas, and it's not a country here for Tart. A country that as its cultural foundation puts Christianity as its thing that holds this for is not for me. It's not for Thomas. It's not for Tart. And it's not for hundreds and thousands of Americans.
Yeah, if you stop the separation of church and state, that will be holy hell.
I agree.
I mean, the veil is very small, Thomas. I was watching a house meeting the other day, and they opened up with like a parish prayer from some pastor, and I'm like, how is this even okay? Right. And then it's those two conflicting images, right, where we have people go, oh, we need to bring Christianity as the sole foundation of this country. But then again, in Congress, they have a prayer beforehand. And around Halloween, all you hear is Halloween music. Around Christmas time, all you hear is Christmas music in the stores everywhere. I'm not hearing Hanukkah jingles.
Yeah,
I'm not hearing any other. Like, there's tons of stuff. None of that's on. Even in the most liberal places. Like, that is already the fabric of this country.
There's also Christians who hold to our idea.
Yeah.
So,
you hear a lot of this echoed even to bring it back to the debate. Like there was a quote from Vivek. He said something to the effect, like essentially he was talking about mental health issues, and not only was he very cringe about the trans thing, he was also very cringe on drug usage, and he started talking about how it's a mental health care issue. It's like, yeah, absolutely, I'm agreeing. And then his solution was faith-based system to mental health care issues. I shit you not. He thinks that we should basically use the church essentially to solve mental health care issues.
Yeah, that would have surely helped me. Yeah.
He was right up until that point. I was like, okay, he's making sense on this topic. Like, obviously, I think that like drug usage and drug addiction, those sorts of things, is probably it's better put in the category of a mental health care issue than in something where we lock somebody up and throw away the keys.
Yes, it's absolutely a mental health care issue. Addiction is a disease. It's a mental disorder.
Yeah, and they kept bringing it back. Speaking of drugs, they kept one of the worst parts about the debate was they kept bringing it back to border control. Everything revolved around border control.
I heard them say that
every single time.
That's really interesting.
You didn't notice it?
No, I noticed it, but to me that seemed like I noticed that they always bring it back to border control because that's a winning issue, of course, but. The case is that like lots of fentanyl that is killing lots of people is coming over the border. It seems perfectly natural and reasonable to be concerned about that. So
I think they're right to be concerned. They're wrong with where the concern is at. What they're wanting to do is like lock down the border kind of thing. They talked about the words they used were militarize the border.
Yeah.
That's not the issue. The actual issue is that almost all the fentanyl is coming through the border legally. It's coming through the hands of American people. Americans are crossing the border, getting the fentanyl and bringing it back. Studies have shown 90% of all of the fentanyl that we're finding It's happening at legal ports of entry, and it's happening with citizens of the United States who are people who are bringing it across the border. So most of the fentanyl, we're pretty sure most of it is coming across in American hands. It's being sent through the border. They're paying Americans to come over and get it and then go back because it's easier to get it through. You can get higher volumes through. Very, very small amounts have ever been found in any other location other than the legal ports of entry.
I'm so
And
curious.
so it's not actually
Well,
they made it a topic about illegal immigration. That's the way they were framing it. But that's just
I trust Tart's done his research.
No, I trust it too. I'm just so curious where you got it now. Like,
I can see the studies on it if you want.
I mean, just give it to me later because now I'm curious.
Yeah,
Well,
sure, no
does the border thing show that at the core of the Republican Party there is some isolationism? That it's kind of feeling like it's
selectively.
Yeah, I think so. That's a really good question, Thomas. And I think the question comes from a conflation of isolationism and nationalism because they're not really the same thing. Nationalism is just a belief in sovereignty. Fundamentally, that's my understanding, that you can pathologize that in many ways, and sovereignty can suggest many policies, but it's not inherent. So, like, yes, if you're a hard nationalist, there is a instinct, a persuasion to be isolationist because you're not worried about the stuff outside. Now, that's short-sighted because everything that happens out there eventually hits, especially in a world that's connected.
Yep.
And like you could say, nationalism would persuade one to a complete immigration moratorium because you want to have strong borders, but you can still retain the sovereignty of your nation while also allowing immigration. You can do both. So I would say that
we are a nation of immigrants, though. But I do, I like the legal idea. Yeah, of course.
But let's be careful not to divorce nationalism in the way the same way that we don't. I'm not saying that you're doing it. I'm saying out loud to the whole group.
You're right. I'm sorry.
I know you think I'm attacking all the time, John, but it's not always about you.
I don't know, man. I got trigger today.
I mean, John is alone here, so we have.
John is here to suffer
John is here to suffer.
Yeah, I know.
He's here to BTFO the loony lefties.
You enjoy it.
But let's not divorce nationalism in the same way that we don't divorce like liberalism from it as a movement rather than just like a description category, right? It tends to promote particular interest of a nation, especially when a construct of what those nations are. So when we say like Americans, what does it mean to be an American, right? You can take Thomas's understanding. Oh, well, America is built on a nation of immigrants. Immigration and immigrants are a part of what it means to be American. We should. That's part of it, as opposed to Americans being Christians or Americans being those who were ethnically here from like the beginning.
We have evidence that this is a nation of immigrants. We can look at our population.
But what's interesting is with the modern rise in nationalism, what surveys have shown, I can send that to you, John, as well, is that people are self-identifying, especially in right-wing circles. The more right-wing you get, the more extreme you go in the right wing. They're not identifying as white, Irish, Anglo-Saxon, German descent. It's like they say, oh no, my descent is American. And that arbitrary, why are you American? Because I am not an immigrant. I've been here for a long time. My family was here during the Confederacy. But these are the types of things that you're getting. Where
Did you hear Vivek's solution to
no, not that it doesn't matter. Yeah, I don't think that they should value that so highly. That's my point. But what were you saying, Tart? Sorry.
I was just gonna say, did you guys did anyone like read anything or hear anything about what Vivek's solution was to immigration? He literally wants to take away the birthright citizenship. So he wants to make it to where even if you're born here, you're not necessarily a citizen of the United States.
Why would he do that?
To get rid of, because a lot of people are coming here as immigrants and then having children. Their children are considered citizens, and so they're able to stay. And he wants to get rid of that.
Many though, you know what I mean?
He said it specifically for illegal immigrants.
So birthright citizenship is gone. So that's going to be another system.
If you're a legal immigrant and you have your kid on American soil, that kid is not automatically an American citizen. That's the status quo right now, and he's saying that's a bad idea.
One of the funny things about illegal immigrants is that they are not only illegal immigrant but DACA recipients. They are the definition of like their entire existence and how they're treated by the American government is antithetical to what even the American government began as. No taxation without representation. Illegal immigrants are taxed where they live, the roads they use, the goods they buy, right? and they have zero representation. They are employed without benefits. They are, in many respects, the backbone of many parts of this country. We can see what DeSantis tried to do with illegal immigration. That really, backfired. They moved to other states. So we
how
have
many legal and illegal immigrants are actually coming across the border every year?
Well, let's get the stats.
It's dropped significantly. I was reading a study recently that
I mean, I just want to
actually,
get an idea because, like, look at states like South Dakota and Kansas; they're fucking empty. I just want to know,
it's not
like,
even.
as a
The funny part
number.
is like it used to be the case that almost that it was over 50% of it was from Mexico. Now it's less than 25% of all illegal immigrants are from Mexico.
There's a
So
lot of
it's actually a very small. It's a much smaller percentage than it used to be, and most of them are not entering the way that they're not coming across the border.
Oh, they're
Like
flying
there's a famous comedian who was like, but the way that they're getting in is they're flying in on a legal visa and then overstaying their visa.
Right.
That's
So
the
in
way
the
that we're
United
actually
States,
having
there's
illegal immigration now.
16 million illegal immigrants right now.
So that's how many come across.
No.
No, that's how many are here.
Oh,
In-
okay.
Since 20, it's about 1 million came in from 2022 to 2023. About 2 million came in from 2017 to 2019.
How many legally though?
How much legal immigration?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Listen, I want to see the disparity between the two.
I mean,
Because
again,
that's going to tell. Like, obviously, I would
there's
think
some that we
there's
never
way
see,
more.
but
I'm sorry, John.
no, I'm saying I'm curious for the details on those numbers.
Yeah, I'd like to know.
Just because you also don't know what you don't know. I know that they have some estimations as to those that they never clock coming in.
Well, of course, we can't know exactly how many illegal immigrants are in the country, but I mean, I would think that it'd be significantly higher than the actual legal number, which means that we just need to have a more robust legal system that gets people in more quickly, because there's plenty of people out there that America would love to have, but they just can't get in.
Yeah, and I think the idea with Vivek is pretty simple, which is just kill all the incentives to do it illegally.
Okay, so here are the numbers. I posted a study, and this is I posted it earlier in the Pangburn server. Which, by the way, if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble, please take the time, come and join the server so you can interact with us if you want to have a chat.
Also, real quick, just to
see if I can
remind
share my
everyone
screen.
that real quick, next month, October, Vancouver, Lawrence Krauss on stage. Go to pangburn.com/tickets to get your tickets. Also, New York City, we have Nick Pope and Lawrence Krauss talking about aliens, Cosmic Skeptic, and Dinesh D'Souza in Brooklyn, and many more events. So please go to pangburn.com/tickets to get your events today. Or your tickets for the events today. That's a better way of saying it.
Don, I hate to break it to you, buddy. It's not next month. It's this month.
This month's happening right now. 13 days. Let's go.
I'm really interested in this. I don't mean to jump in, but Tart, what are the numbers?
If we could, I'm sharing my screen. If we could put it up on there.
Yeah, go ahead. Make it a little bit bigger if you
I
can.
already did, my guy.
All right, so here we are. So if you're looking at this is from Pew Research polls. So essentially, the lawful immigration is 35.2 million, which is 77% of all the immigrants in the United States. Then you have the unauthorized immigrants. These make up 10.5 million, which is 23%. And then we have lawful permanent residents. These are people who request.
I was
think
wrong.
Those are
no lawful permanent residents or green cards. I'm in that category.
Yeah, green cards. That's
I'm in that.
for.
I have a green card right now. I do not have a citizenship yet.
And then temporary lawful residents. These are asylum. These are people who have applied for asylum and things like that.
Yeah.
And so this is the chunk that we're talking about, unauthorized immigration.
That's crazy. I thought it was the other way around. Wow, that's insane. Okay.
No, we don't have I mean the thing is that for some, I don't know what it is about the Conservative Party where they've been harping on this for so many decades. It's really not been an issue for a while. There was a time where it took this really massive jump, and we were freaking out because we didn't we had nothing to we had no idea what to do with all these people who were coming in, and that's when it was an issue, right? But that issue very quickly tapered off, and we've had this very love-hate relationship with Mexico throughout our history. Sometimes we're totally okay with them coming, and sometimes we're like, no, you can't come here. And it just really depended on the era and the time and the climate going on. Right now, though, the reason they made this an issue is because fentanyl. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but fentanyl is a drug, and it's been killing a lot of people. It's
an extremely strong opioid. It's a very strong opioid.
I've lost friends to this, so it's really common in my community. In the gay community, it's happening a lot.
Yeah, a lot of people are homeless on the streets because of fentanyl, because it is so addictive, and you'll sell your mother to. It's terrible. Yeah, but I mean, my mom, when she had fibromyalgia, got fentanyl patches, and it does have useful benefits to people with cancer and all that kind of stuff.
But I also want to bring up a really interesting trend that I'm looking at right now, when it seems like in around 1870s, 1880s, and 1890s, the percent of the population that was immigrants was around 15%.
Okay.
Recently, since the 1990s, we are approaching that 15% mark again. And it was around both those times there were really nationalistic movements in the United States. I don't know. There's a correlation that I'm seeing.
Ooh.
It seems to have interesting priors that make it sound pretty logically consistent, where nationalistic movements around the world, we're seeing that, whether it be the Golden Dawn in Greece, Viktor Orban's, where's he from again?
Hungary.
Hungary, right? These areas had a lot of immigration, and then they saw a really big boost in like this hyper nationalistic,
so it was a reverberation. It was like a pushback, right?
Yeah, usually.
Yeah, it's just there's a
usually nationalism is usually a reactionary movement to something else.
Yeah.
Typically, this is true, especially in the modern day. There's so many different things I wanted to comment on, but I'll just stick with about how it's not really an issue anymore. This also dovetails with what you said about how DeSantis's like movement on the immigration thing was a failure. I'm not really sure that that's true. I mean, border states, especially the red border states, have been complaining about not knowing what to do with these people for a really long time. And DeSantis,
let's be honest, it's mostly Texas, right?
Yeah, and then DeSantis sent them to sanctuary cities, and now New York, like Kathy Hochul, is like complaining about how we need to tighten things up. Like she did like a complete 180 over this.
What are the sanctuary cities? How many are there?
Well, wait one second. I want to quickly say that Kathy Hochul's 180 is because we saw a swing in New York to become red, and while these immigrants are entering the suburb, she's trying not to lose whatever Democratic placement she has. So Kathy Hochul is taking a two-sided stance on it while promoting developing more urban apartments within suburbs who are outside of cities. At the same time, she's also saying, "Oh, we haven't." It's a much more Machiavellian than actually what she's complaining.
No, I agree.
Complaints are really just to make sure New York doesn't swing red. I'm here. I live here. That's not what's happening.
Do you really not think that there's actual like facility issues, like just in terms of like having the space? Because like
New York City and New York State has tons of apartments and houses that no one's living in.
That's
true across the country. But we talked about the housing crisis before, and the housing crisis is almost entirely artificial. There's plenty of housing. It's just being bought up and being held in the hands of very wealthy people who are
bank
not,
shit.
They're literally just banking on it. That's it. It's not real.
I disagree that makes it not real, but that's another issue. All I wanted to say was put the idea to rest, because you can say it's not real all you want, but as long as property rights continue to exist, then it is real. And
it's an artificial scarcity is what I'm saying.
About nothing, right? It's not like Florida was bitching about nothing. It's not like Texas bitching about nothing. And while Hochul might be Machiavellian, she wouldn't have to be Machiavellian if it wasn't actually a problem that was going to swing voters, which means it really is a problem in the blue states too.
So it's not artificial at all.
Well, that's not quite what I'm saying. When I say real, I think we're using the word real differently. I'm saying something closer to like there are plenty of houses. There's lots of houses, and lots of them are empty. There's enough to house every homeless person in America. There's enough housing to house all of them. There's not enough available funds. There's not enough, and the people who own the houses are not willing to share or let other people live in their homes. Right?
Yeah.
They own those homes. They're not living there. They're not using it for anything other than an investment property.
There's 500,000 homeless people in the United States, and there are way more homes than that are available to live in.
Yes.
Well, again, you keep using the word available. They're not available.
Well, they're owned by someone, or it's a rental property. Or
they're unlived in.
Yeah,
they are unlived in.
Airbnb is a real issue here as well.
Airbnb is another big problem. It's actually artificially inflated as well. So, because people are purchasing Airbnb properties and they're just using them as temporary places for people to come in and out.
Why is the price of diamonds high? Not because there isn't enough diamonds, because they're keeping it in warehouses.
Yeah,
that's what we're saying.
Artificial scarcity is a thing.
Increase production, and if we didn't throttle it, it'd probably help.
In fact, fun fact, a lot of philosophers think we are actually getting very close to what's called a post-scarcity society. We are very close to where the only kind of scarcity that will exist is artificial scarcity.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, we do have the
issue with that idea. The issue with that idea is that if you took the steps necessary to distribute and end the artificiality, you would kill the incentives that produce that much, produce that much in the first place. And then when the resources get consumed, then you're fucked. because you turned the
I
engine.
see what you say. I understand that.
Like, congratulations, you turned the engine off, and for like 10 years, everybody had what they
But
needed.
the post scarcity thing is something to. The post scarcity thing is something to think about because we can we can feed everyone on the planet if we wanted to. We have the means. We have the means to feed everyone on the planet.
I believe in draconian laws like France, where if you see food in your dumpster that could have been donated, massive amounts of fines.
I agree.
Obligated.
1,000%. I agree 1,000% with this rule.
Have you seen these videos of these people online going dumpster diving and literally just finding food, fresh packets of food that are one day past the expiration date?
Oh, don't even think about that. Think about Walmart's, how much they throw out just because it's like out of date on the package. That's the use by date, not the consume by date, or no, it's the sell by date, not the consume by date. And they just throw all that shit away and write it off on taxes.
I could get behind a mandatory donation if you were going to throw it away. If the other
not mandatory donation.
I'm just saying the post scarcity thing. We have a means to feed everybody.
Punishment for wastefulness is effectively incentivizing donation.
Sure.
Right? Or non wastefulness anyway.
Sure. Yeah.
I can get behind that, Don. 1,000%. I agree. Yeah. See, the social conservatism sometimes does win out. See, I'm not all bad.
You're not all bad, John. You're our friend. We love. You're our best punching bag ever.
No.
This is your mistake. You all think I'm locked in here with you.
No, we're locked in here with him.
Are you kidding? Are you kidding? John getting to talk to a bunch of people who disagree with him? It's his fucking. I don't want to say. I know John has issue with sexual metaphors, so I'll just let the audience think of it themselves.
That quote is so boss though. Like the quote he just it's a Rorschach. He's like, you think I'm locked in here with you? You're locked in here with me. Like, love that line.
But let's move this forward a little bit.
Well, I want to move forward too, but I want to do last thing here. Of course,
it's
is that Gavin Newsom called out Ron DeSantis to a debate like 2 months ago. He finally took him up on it. So it looks like Gavin Newsom and Ron DeSantis are going to be going mano-a-mano debate. Although after the fact, Newsom said, look, she can't be president. Look how I baited him into a debate. Look how immature he is. So that's number one. So that's going to happen next month.
Two governors that are those are the biggest states in terms of population. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. And then the second thing is that DeSantis called out Trump for a mano-a-mano debate himself as well. He's like, look, stop being a coward. I am the only one who can threaten you. You have an obligation to the voters. Come out and debate me, which Trump will not do.
Trump is too much of a pussy.
What do you think about that, John? Actually, do you think it's a good move for Trump to not show up to any of these debates? Is he just saying I'm the de facto choice? Is this a good move or a bad move?
Like tactically speaking, it's very smart. It's very correct. In terms of moral, no, I think you should be there. 100%. Yeah. Stand up for your record, bro. Do it.
Well, I think I also wanted to say that I think that Gavin Newsom debating DeSantis. Gavin Newsom, those who don't recognize, he's probably going to be the next attempt at a Democratic president.
It's going to be the leftist Patrick Bateman.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Just kidding. Sorry.
I'm just hoping one of these douchebags on the stage will end up keeping running, even if Trump gets the position, so he'll split the vote. That's my Machiavellian coming out too.
I mean,
Newsom's ready to pick up the pieces if something happens to Biden, and if not, I think he's gunning for 2028.
Yeah, but as Don said, it's gonna be Trump versus Biden, right?
Nobody wants to be that, and yet it's gonna be that.
I think it's gonna be that.
It's gonna be a last generation before they just die, and then we can move forward.
Bunch of 90-year-olds fucking.
Yeah, finally that whole generation will be gone and off the stage. We can actually get shit done. Like,
by the way, poor Dianne Feinstein. She signed away her power of attorney 6 months ago, and yet her family let her keep serving on Congress. Shame on everyone in her life who called themselves a loved one, who allowed her to keep serving up to the point of death. That's insane. I am.
Well, wait, John. For someone who wants to look at the positive situations of things, how could you say shame on them like that? What could you not conceive of? She said, the one thing you don't take away from me is my job. I'm not gonna let you do that. I'm not gonna. There's all these things they thought that she would know. This is her thing that's keeping her alive. It's what she's yearning for. She wants to make sure that the people that she represents get what they deserve. She wants to have the last say. Like, there could be so many positive things, and you just took that so negatively. Why'd you take that so negatively, John?
Because she signed away. It's because she signed away her power of attorney. That's
So
like
what?
literally signing away her competence.
No, she just wants to make sure that people in her family can deal with the things involving the house, like she's in the last leg. They can deal with all of that legal framework. Well, she can focus on the one thing she really cared about. And they're just all a loving family. No shame. What about the intentions here, John?
I think that's wrong of Feinstein personally. I'm sure.
The thing is, I agree with you. I think it's fucked up. If you're citing, I think she should have retired way beforehand. Like,
yeah,
I
think if that's what she wanted, she was wrong to want that, and I think her loved one should have stepped in. And like, I don't know, like, it's morally abhorrent to me. I'm not saying that they were necessarily like vultures and they had bad intent. And I'm not saying Feinstein was forced into it. I'm saying that even if that was like ideal intentions, I think it's still wrong. And I think there was a dereliction of moral duty there, even if they didn't recognize it.
I think there's a dereliction of moral duty on Peterson and his daughter.
Okay. We can. I think that's a good button on that.
Nice.
Okay. Last thing is a couple of Trump fraud things. There's two. Tart, you did one, which is that co-defendant of Trump pled guilty. And then the second one is like a big development in like the fraud case in New York. I'm doing quotes for a reason, but we can get to that in a second. But Tart, you know more about the first thing than I do, so I'm curious.
Oh yeah, so the guy from Georgia, what's his name? His name's jumping out of my head. He pled guilty, saying to at least 5 counts of the charges involved, and so he's basically saying, yeah, we did try to take the election, and he's taking the plea bargain. What
was his relationship to Trump?
He was the guy that let me pull up the article really quickly because it's been a couple of days since I actually read the article because it happened a couple of days ago.
What did he say? Did he say he was doing it, or did he speak? Did he?
Well, he alluded that Trump had placed pressure on him to take the actions that he had taken, and he had sent. If I remember right, he sent a letter to the DOJ saying that they had found significant evidence of something to do with significant evidence that there was fraud involved and that there was an issue with the election. That was not true. That the DOJ had not found anything involved with that, and they placed pressure on them to kind of call things off. Let me pull up the article because I posted it, and it's been a couple of days. We can cover the other stuff, and then I'll cover that one afterwards because I've forgotten the exact stuff.
So the other thing is the fraud case in New York, which, in my personal opinion, is legally tenuous, but that's not really the story. The story is that the prosecutor was looking to basically put something at the stake for this fraud case, which is basically Trump's ability to run his businesses, like major businesses in New York, his operating rights over like his buildings, stuff like that. And the judge agreed. The judge agreed to this. From the Trump camp, they have been accusing the judge of being just outright partisan. Apparently, he's refused to answer even clarifying questions. Again, that's from the Trump camp, so take it with whatever grain of salt that you feel is responsible. But basically, the fraud. The weird thing about this fraud case is that the person that Trump was accused of defrauding did not attempt to sue him, and also knew apparently that like Trump was like up talking the value of his assets. It's like a weird type of law. I think it's like engorgement of profits, although it might be a different word that starts with E, so I could be wrong about that. So
but that's criminal, right? To engorge profits, you pay their less or more taxes.
So basically, so the guy who Trump apparently did wrong to did not sue him. So New York is going after Trump on that person's behalf, even without their request. And they set the monetary terms of how much they want to punish him or how much they want to hold up as collateral in case Trump loses, right? Instead of the people wrong deciding how much they want out of Trump for damages, New York State decides, aka the prosecutor decides. And they agreed to something like $250 million worth of like operational rights of his businesses. So real shit is at stake now. It's pretty wild. Like they're going after Trump's financials. They're going after his business, like just straight up directly. So that's a huge development. Temperature is rising, I guess, is the point we can have on there.
Guilty man.
Guilty man? That's general responses from the crowd. Don says guilty man. What do you think, Thomas?
I don't know enough about the situation to give my verdict, but I do not like Trump as a person. So
But
At least he's pretty straightforward about it.
The attitude of just so many people in the country so beautifully. It's like, I don't know the details, but I don't like that guy, and I wouldn't be surprised if he did.
Well, it's just because of all the evidence of his past things, the sexual allegations, yada 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 yada.
Allegations.
Right? Sexual allegations and stuff, and all the stuff that follows him from his past, and The Apprentice, and things that celebrities have heard him say, and the pussy bus thing, and just all the stuff that he's just not a guy. He's just not somebody that I would enjoy to be around. But I don't know enough about the case. That's why I wouldn't say, "Yep, he's guilty." You know what I mean?
Yeah. I do think that with these the Trump indictments and the Trump prosecutions, there has been a glass broken.
So I'm looking this up right now, and what they specifically said is that Trump and his allies wrote false and misleading financial statements, that they used these doctored financial statements to conduct business transactions. And that's kind of like, you can't do that in New York State. You can't create fake and misleading financial statements about your company and then do business that way. That's what he got fined for.
The laws are intended, from what I read about it, the laws are intended to basically say, hey, we don't care whether or not, if somebody else doesn't care that you defrauded them, that doesn't really matter. You're not going to perform that action in the state of New York, right? Because instead we're going to give the prosecutor the power to go ahead and take your business license and make it where you can't do business in New York if you behave this way. So even if like, say, for instance, I get defrauded out of something, even if I don't take actions to sue you, maybe, for instance, maybe I don't have enough money to do so. There's plenty of instances where that happens, or maybe it may not. That may not be the case here. No, that. But what I'm saying is, this is the reason the law exists. The law exists in order to protect people from having bad business behavior. Now, if Trump is doing bad business behavior, that's enough for me to say, okay, cool. So his businesses are under attack for performing badly and doing bad things in a business sphere, and this is a wrong thing to do because
I didn't say it was a wrong thing to do.
Okay, cool. So I'm just hoping we're all in agreement that this is the right thing to do. That it should be the case that if he's doing bad things in business, he should be held to the state laws, and those state laws are intended to protect the people of New York from people who are performing bad business. And he's getting fucked by it. I mean, like, I don't know why I would be sympathetic to him here. Why would I care?
A very divided mind about this.
Yeah, it's like, hey, look, you did bad things in business. It doesn't matter if you fucked over Tart, and Tart goes, it happened years ago. I'm not going to bother with this. It's not really worth the legal investment or any of that.
I didn't even know he did it.
Who cares, right? The state says, you know what, we care because we want people to behave right and good in business. And Trump is just demonstrating he's a bad businessman, and why would I take his side on this? I have no clue why anyone would take his side.
It's the woke elite, Democrats from the coast who are funded by George Soros. That's why.
Like, I care about people doing business in an ethical, moral way. Like,
that's one argument people make. And it's a straw man of everyone here, but it's something about some people say. You've heard it, John. I've heard it. We've been enough in the call-in days to know that is a consistent narrative that comes.
That lawyers and people and DAs and public defenders have like certain political priors that they can exercise.
No, that's not what they're saying. They didn't say, they have political priors. Saying there is this woke cultural thing funded by academics and media institutions like Hollywood and the East Coast elites to push forward their anti-American agenda, and Trump is at the top of that, and they're trying to attack him first. People say this. I'm not saying that you're saying this, but that's what people are saying. I mean, it's just the fact. I don't know.
You're not a part of that.
Yeah, you're not a part of that movement.
Say it again, real quick. Say it again. I tuned it out. Be specific.
That there is a group, a concerted effort by woke moralists who are in charge of the elite organizations in Hollywood and the academia in New York and California, who are pushing this narrative through media and indoctrinating people. And the head of the figure that they're trying to attack is Donald Trump, and they're funding attacks against him. And all of this is political, and it's a witch hunt. Like, this is what they're talking about. Yeah, they're one step removed from saying globalist Jews, and instead of globalist Jews, they say George Soros.
Yeah, so it's not a centralized cabal. That's not true. I don't think that there's like a centralized group of people.
Do you think there's a decentralized cabal? A libertarian cabal for that sake.
It's just like, you know, a similar political priors causing people to be animated in a similar way. About George Soros,
if there is an Illuminati, a centralized cabal, I can be bought. You can pay me.
I think this is John. John, just real quick, I think this is an important point. You don't consider yourself a part of the MAGA alt-right movement, do you?
Not really. Okay. I would also say that MAGA and alt-right are different things.
Okay, I don't know enough about it, so I could be wrong.
I'm telling you that those are different things.
Okay.
Like MAGA is not the same thing as like Nick Fuentes. Like those are.
Yeah, alt-right is worse. It's like from like a tier shit list of like shit to less shit is like alt-right. Actually, let's put it this way: KKK, ultra-white nationalist, alt-right, Christian nationalist, MAGAs.
Okay.
Yeah. Christian nationalists and MAGAs are very close together.
That's why it's Christian nationalist MAGA. Because not a lot of MAGA people are atheists or like people who just like anti-system, anti-establishment, and they don't really fit that Christian nationalist, which loves the church and all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of loath to like put myself under a brand of.
So MAGAs fall under the anti-politics.
All of it is anti-politics. All the way up.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Christians don't like the separation of church and state. They want to make sure that they Christian nationalists don't want the separation of church and state. They want to make sure that the church can have much more influence in their day-to-day life. A way of offloading that from the church is weakening politics, weakening government, make sure it's no longer in the hands of government, thus leaving it up to the hands of the church or other community centers. Right? It's the same thing. The entire right wing is anti-political.
And again, just to clarify, people who are Christian nationalism is semantically overloaded. That's all I'm going to say. There are many people who refer to Christian nationalism and don't mean like the dissolution of the separation between church and state. What they really mean is the dissolution between the separation of politics and religion. But those are like ideas as opposed to like making the institutions of government and church together. I think that.
I mean, yeah, they would rather have no government. That way, like. People who are very religiously fundamental, whether it's Muslim, Jewish, Christian, want less state control over where they send their kids to school, over what they teach their kids to school, over what they do in their day-to-day. They want more church control. So there's two ways of doing that. Either combine the two. In America, it's very hard to do with the separation of church and state. So what's the other option is? Get rid of the one, making the other one the only one there. Take away the power of the state in the schools. That's what. And that was used to what they tried doing in the 80s and stuff like that.
Yeah, localism, federalism.
Right, that was one option. And then DeSantis said, fuck it, let's just use the state.
Well, technically, that is a form of federalism. By increasing state power, you are.
I mean, the Department of Federal already doesn't do anything. So that's
I strongly disagree. I had to suffer through Common Core, my friend.
Common Core, surprisingly, shows statistically a better outcomes for students when they learn it, because the way of learning it, I mean, facts, science. I mean, if you want to go, we can do a whole episode on Common Core, and I can step by step walk you through all the research on it, because I have done projects on it.
I believe you've done that. You have to understand this point, and this point alone is not about success rate. It's about the point that I didn't like it as a kid, and therefore it was bad. That's what you have to understand.
It didn't work for you.
I believe
it worked for him. He's smart, obviously.
I'm kind of stupid about STEM stuff, to be honest. Unfortunately, it's true. I
know it's a quick tangent, but the way they really think about it is if you interview people who are really good at math and are really good at like that type of understanding, and you look at the way they conceive of these problems, that's what was educated through like Common Core. For example, the idea of like counting using a number line and thinking of negative numbers as facing left on the number line and positive numbers as facing right, like that type of. Is it facing
construct?
And that was very hard because a lot of people were either got Common Core like halfway into their education, it just blew, like they couldn't understand it, or a lot of times students, maybe John's age, got Common Core and their parents didn't know how to help them with it.
That was
a lot of what was because they didn't understand why they're doing math that way. You just carry the one and you add, and what is all this nonsense with circles and Venn diagrams and abstractly understanding mathematics. So
they carry the one thing. Those are supposed to be shortcuts, shorthands for how to do it. And we thought if we gave people shortcuts to how to do math, that they'd be better at math. And we found out that's not correct. You have to actually understand it. So so Common Core is supposed to help you understand the material, not just be able to shorthand quickly get to the answer.
Wait, hold on. Carry the one was wrong. My whole life is a lie.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my
I mean,
God.
that's
Oh
true.
my
That's not how it works.
It's how
just a short way of doing it.
it gets you the solution. It doesn't make you understand mathematics.
It doesn't make you understand what you're doing.
Perfect sense.
Fundamental
It's
understanding
when
is
you get
different.
too high on one number place, you pop up a number place on you pop up a value on the next number place, right? Like I don't know. It makes sense. Okay,
Fundamental
we should stop talking
understanding
about
is.
math. Viewership.
I know. I was recently working with two younger girls, and when we're learning, I was shocked by how well they understand fractions because they learn fractions totally different than we learn fractions.
Bro, I was such an idiot about fractions.
They were, and they just get it. They're like, oh yeah, of course, 1/3 plus 2/5 is this. Of course, 2/5 is smaller than 2/3 because the denominator is smaller. What does that mean? Well, it's like a pizza pie. If I think they just understood it, they just really understood it.
That's
and they
called
were
good
kind of.
intuition.
I mean, that's because they learned Common Core. I watched their work. Like it's,
Okay, maybe I won't borrow Vivek's policy advice when I run the world, and I won't obliterate the federal Department of Education.
Don't do it. It's only right now. It's only responsible for 1% of the budget.
Like under federalism, it really shouldn't exist, but if you show me the stats, I could be convinced.
Hey, if it works, who gives a shit? Right? If it works, it works.
There is something dangerous about centralizing that level of power to an entity that is so far removed from the actual locale. There is an inherent danger there.
So guys, we've been live for an hour, almost 2 hours. I think it's time to call it.
I know.
Yeah, it's time to wrap it up. We've gotten down to the end of the. We got through all the topics tonight.
At the beginning, I said that we would get through all our topics, and I said we might talk about random secret stuff. And
here we are talking about random secret stuff. Called it.
Is kept. That's what I want to say.
Oh God, like an oracle, man, like an oracle.
Well, thank you all so much for being here. Again, there are multiple Pangburn live events coming up. One October 13th, right?
Yep.
Vancouver. Pangburn.com/tickets.
Pangburn.com/tickets. Yes, very cool. It's kind of one of the only guys who are still trying to promote actual discourse anymore. So, that's valuable. There's so many things I want to talk about that we didn't get to talk about, especially with you, Tart. I had a couple things. Tart and I have a talk about abortion scheduled for sometime in the next 2 weeks. We're going to go mano a mano and actually get deep into the moral philosophy. So that's
and Don and I have on Tuesday of this week at 8 p.m. so far. I think we may have to reschedule it because I don't want to take the schedule from anyone else, any of the producers.
No, Tuesday is my show, so we can definitely
Tuesday. Okay, I thought so. I couldn't remember correctly. So Tuesday night.
By the way, this is news
PM.
to me that we're doing a Tuesday night, but sure. Let's
What?
do it
You didn't
Tuesday
know?
night.
I posted it. Anyways, I posted it. You didn't read it. Anyway,
you asked me what?
Tuesday, 8 p.m. on your show, we are doing a live call-in show for atheism. We're going to be talking about, is the problem of evil a problem? So we're going to be going over that. That'll be a lot of fun. And you can join us on the Discord if you'd like to join and have a conversation with myself and Don, or if you'd like to actually just really interact with any of us, we are on the Pangburn Discord.
Problem of tragedy is much more difficult than the problem of evil, to me anyway. Thomas, what's your episode? Yeah, Thomas.
My episode. We have to reschedule my last guest, which was Grand Priest. That was going to be an excellent interview. We're going to get to that. But my next show, we'll be getting into my science series where we just got done with the philosophy of science. We'll be going into what actual sciences are and explain the scientific methodology to people. It'll be really fun. Me and Perry will be going at it. So, as always, please come to us and hang out with us.
And just a reminder, tomorrow morning, come to my YouTube channel. I will be posting a link by video, and it's going to mention the leaked names that I found, and I'll explain. Now it's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic.
It's going to be great. He's going to vent, maybe a little bit. That joke doesn't make sense. Yeah, I am excited. I am excited to see there are 15 names. Last couple things is, I'm sorry I forgot to mention, I talked to Tom Sorrell. That video just went up on my channel. He's political philosophy. We talked about scientism and why it might be bad, and why it probably doesn't mean what you think it means. So that's interesting.
And November 14th, Reza Aslan. Tart and I.
Yeah. Reza Aslan.
That's far away. Also, last thing, I just checked my calendar. Our talk is
coming up, man.
Our talk is tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
So
I'm doing 2 shows. I'm doing one with Don on Tuesday and one on Monday with John Parker. We're going to be busy this week, boys.
Don't waste all your energy with John. It's not worth it. Keep it for our show.
He's no fun. All right. Well, better.
We'll have fun with it.
Thank you all for watching. As always, this has been Pangburn Royal Rumble. It's been a good one, spicy one. We will see you all throughout the week, and all of us back together next week. Till next time.
Bye. Y'all be good. Peace.
Peace out, guys. Keep thinking.